Now, this is quite a controversial topic, I know, about Luffy dying at the end of the series. And for a lot of people, it makes absolute sense why he's not going to die. Because it's a shonen series, the whole series is fun, it's epic. Luffy's going to supersede that of Roger and the other pirates, so he isn't going to die at the end of the series, but he's actually going to live and prosper. But the evidence in front of us says the opposite. So I'm going to go over all of this in this video today. If you guys enjoyed the video at all and you'd like to go and support me, like the video and subscribe. We're almost at 100 subscribers right now, which is awesome. And we are on the road to 1,000 once we hit that milestone. So if you want to go and join me, join the Hype Pirates, like the video and subscribe for more videos. Now, there are a number of different points in regards to Luffy's story that really point towards him dying at the end of the series. So the first one being that Luffy is following in Gold Roger's footsteps. So in terms of hearing the voice of all things, in terms of being the character that he is, he looks identical to Roger, he acts identical to Roger, he's essentially carrying Roger's will, and he's following in his footsteps identically. So to have him go through his whole journey and do the exact same things Roger is essentially doing, and at the conclusion of the story, where Roger eventually dies from an illness, you have Luffy who is on the road to following in that footsteps of dying from an illness like Roger did. And I'm going to go over that illness in a moment, but that's the first real point, is that he's following Roger's footsteps, and Roger's footsteps eventually lead him to his death. In talking about the illness, it makes a lot of sense that Luffy would go and suffer from an illness. I mean, Roger's is undisclosed. We don't know what exactly the illness is, but what we do know is that if Luffy and Roger are mirroring each other in terms of their whole journey in their lives, is that Luffy has had a major decline in his life force. And that's pointing towards him using Gear Second, which was clearly stated that every time he uses Gear Second, it drains his life. And so if you have him constantly using Gear Second, and he has been using it with Gear Third, with Gear Fourth, with Haki, just constantly relying on using Gear Second with these other abilities that take so much more strain than Gear Second does, it's just accumulating more and more of his life is being drained away. So that's really going out of his favor. Another one too is that he already has 10 years of his life taken away from him from helping with his poison during Impel Down. So you have Luffy who's already cut 10 years off his life, and then you have him constantly draining more of his life force. Another important detail that sticks out to me is that seeing how much damage that Zoro took by taking on Luffy's injuries and his pain in Thriller Bark. So when Kuma took out all that pain and all that damage from Luffy and put it into Zoro, that helped Luffy a bunch, and it really held off a little bit in the future. Because Luffy has been fighting since Water 7 with Gear Second, constantly taking on more pain, more strain on his body, and taking away more life force, from Water 7 to Thriller Bark, essentially all that stuff, as well as damage beforehand, was taken out of Luffy and put into Zoro. So that is what's going to help Luffy get over the line in the future. But that's an important detail to see, is that how much damage Luffy has taken, and that from Thriller Bark to right now in the story, he has been using Gear Third, Gear Second, Gear Fourth, Haki, taking all this pain from all these different people, straining himself so much, and that's the balloon on Luffy's body is eventually going to pop. And it honestly is a matter of when. It's not if it's going to happen. It's honestly a matter of time. So when you have that happening, and then you hear that Roger suffered from some mysterious illness, and that Luffy is straining more of his body, for me, it paints a very, very clear picture where you have Roger, who all of a sudden had a huge health decline, and that he was told by Crocus that he had 1 year left to live. And so with this happening, and with Luffy's health declining, it's not going to surprise me that very soon in the story, and I mean very, very soon, like after Kaido, I wouldn't be surprised if Luffy all of a sudden had a very huge turn in terms of his health. And it was made clear by Chopper or by Law that Luffy's time is very, very short. This is definitely going to go and be the illness that Luffy's going to suffer from, and it's the same one that Roger suffered from. And it's not necessarily a sort of sickness, but it's more so your health just declining so much and your body being strained so much that it just gives. And with 10 years off Luffy's life and with all of the strain he has taken, it's honestly very, very soon that this news is going to be put forward. And with Roger, he was told that he had 1 year left to live. So you can get a lot done in a year. So it doesn't surprise me if we find out soon that Luffy might even have like a year left to live or something very, very short, honestly, very soon. And that in that time, they're going to go straight to finding the One Piece. And this is honestly going to be some way that Oda could potentially rush the story by having a sort of time put in place, because One Piece has gone for a very long time. It's obvious now. We've all been there. It's gone for over 20 years now. And it's only a matter of time when the series is going to end, and it's important to establish when the series is going to start wrapping up. So by saying that Luffy has only have a set amount of time left to live, that already paints a picture of how much time is left, and it starts the stepping stones of following towards the story at the end of One Piece, with Luffy's death being an eventual outcome. Now, this next point I'm going to make is something that is relating more towards the people making the stories and how it's so important to have a main character die at the end of the series. There is a lot of series, for instance in Shonen, that have the main characters live after the story has concluded, and through most of the time, the series starts to decline when it really gets dragged out longer than it should. And honestly, you can come up with your own sort of suggestions. I know that the Boruto series, a lot of people like it, but for me personally, having the story end with Naruto as Hokage and then the new story not being made by the original creator, but by someone else now, and just making their own sort of stories and dragging it out, that really takes away, for me, what I saw about the whole Naruto story. Another one, for instance, is Bleach, but only time will tell to see how the series eventually progresses with Bleach into the new arc. But having these sorts of major stories that have gone on for so long, when you have a main character that lives, it opens up the doors to a continuation of the story, which in turn can cause the series to drag on, to take away from the quality of the original story. Most of the time, it doesn't work out too well. And as I'm saying this, the lighting just dramatically changed. So now it's really moody because I'm talking about main characters dying and the series dragging on and becoming bad. It's very fitting. Oda is hearing me right now. So, I mean, this is completely subjective, of course, but this is my opinion, is that if you have a main character who has died and the series wraps up and ends, that cements the journey and cements the story for what it is. Where you have the start of Luffy's journey, the end of Luffy's journey, much like Roger's, in a nice little bow, the closed book. It's done. There's no more touching to that. There's no more adding to that. If you want to add stuff to that, you can do it in between. But when you have a start and a finish, and then you start adding stuff on the end of it, it can just not turn out all too well. And the risk is so much for that. So for me, on the story, if Luffy dies, it will be super sad, of course. But I can totally see that that would be the necessary step on ending Luffy's journey the right way. Sure, if you haven't been alive, you can come up with your own sorts of ideas of what the next journey is, about what he does next, and that's all cool, and I would love that. But in terms of the quality of the story being at the start and the end, I think that just his story being closed up in a nice, neat book is the way to go. And if you guys think a bit differently, then that's totally fine. If Luffy was to live, that's totally fine, and that's all cool. But for me, looking at the story as a whole, and what I personally would like for One Piece, I would like One Piece to end perfectly. I would like it to end effectively. And so having this really set in stone, that there is no continuation possible for the story. Oda has been working on this for over 20 years. Give the man a break when this is done. It's like he can live with his life, because I can't imagine writing a story for over 20 years and like say, it is done, I'm over. and then get told that there are possibilities of expanding and doing different things and having that sort of urge and that sort of knack to want to go back in it. And then you get stuck, and then it's looming over you. That if the characters are done, if the story is done and the book is closed, there is no possible way of continuing. I think that honestly, that is the way that I would want Oda to finish up One Piece for his sake, for our sake, and for the story's sake as a whole. Now, another point you can say is that it's fine because Chopper is going to cure the illness for Luffy, which would mean that Chopper's dream is fulfilled of curing every sort of illness. I definitely do see all the Straw Hat members achieving their dreams. So if Chopper was unable to go and cure this illness that Luffy suffers, then his dream wouldn't be fulfilled. So the way to go around that would be to clearly state that what Luffy is suffering from is not an illness. His body is declined to the point of no return. His life force has drained to the point of no return. And this illness is just his body giving out. So there is no possible way to cure this illness when it is not actually an illness. So Chopper's dream can still be fulfilled by going curing every single disease, but Luffy will eventually die in the story. It's such a double-edged sword where if Luffy lives, that's going to be awesome. It's going to be great that Luffy has achieved his dream and he's sailing the seas as the king of the pirates. That's great. And honestly, I would love that. But another side of it is that if Luffy was to go and achieve his dreams, sail the seas, do everything he did, and then go to the point of whether he just dies or if he does exactly the same thing as Gold Roger did and get executed and hand himself in, that the impact of seeing Luffy go through everything he has and then willingly choose to go and give himself in and get executed and let the whole new era of piracy happen, having that sort of conviction to say, I've made my journey, I've done everything I have, I'm happy with what I've done, I have become the king of the pirates, and now it's time for a whole new age of piracy to go and commence. Having that sort of conviction and that motivation to do so, that's going to hit hard. Like, that's going to be a huge moment. And it's going to be so many years of build up of this journey with us because we've joined it together. We've watched this whole series unfold. So to go through all of that and to go and say, that's it, it's done, it's over, the book is closed, is going to be a really tough one to read. And it's going to be a really tough thing to watch everybody react to because so many people are invested. I mean, look at me. I make videos for you guys about One Piece. I've made theories for years on One Piece. And when the day comes that it's eventually going to just end and finish, and if it does finish with Luffy's death, and the book is closed on Luffy's story completely and sealed, that's going to be really tough. That's going to be really tough to see. But it's going to be really cool. And it's going to cement One Piece's story even more concretely as the most epic adventure series, period. That there was no sort of drag after the story, no sort of expansions or any sort of thing. That Oda said, I'm done. It is over. This is the ending. That's what I would want. So let me know your thoughts on the death of Luffy. Do you think it's actually going to happen? Or do you think that he is going to supersede Roger and Joy Boy and actually survive and go and sail the seas as King of the Pirates? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. If you guys enjoyed this theory discussion video, please like the video. It really helps me out so much. And subscribe for future One Piece series and discussions. I hope you guys have an awesome day. Take care, and I'll see you all on the next one.